Hey everybody, it's Slayer31 here. Welcome back to Pokemon Yellow. In the last episode, we went through Viridian Forest, fought some trainers in there, and then came out into Pewter City and took on the Pewter Gym. It was a time. If you missed it, you should go watch it. It was the last episode, not hard to find. However, in this episode, we're going to be going off this way because our bodyguard that was preventing us from going over this way is no longer here. And there's really no other way to go. Before we do that though, I do want to go to the mart because I do want to sell that TM that we got last time. I did decide to sell it. I'm like, we're very poor right now, and normally I like to hoard TMs just as like a collector type deal, but it's not really feasible in Generation 1 to have one of every TM just because of how limited your inventory is. So I'm gonna go ahead and buy 10 Pokeballs with the extra money we got. If you yourself don't have a whole lot of funds, don't worry. We are about to battle quite a few trainers and get some money, so. Out here, there's lots of trainers. We're gonna start here. You looked at me, didn't you? No? My character didn't, presumably. Oh, this Pidgey. I'm way over leveled for this Pidgey, so we'll be perfectly fine. I forgot how nice it was being in the early game with a Pikachu, when Pikachu's base stats are like on par or not outclassed, depending on how you want to look at it. Hey, I met you in Viridian Forest. Did you? You know what? You look like every other bug catcher I've ever seen, so I guess I can't deny. Now we'll just go for Thunder Shock. There's no reason not to. It's not like bug resists or whatever. So yeah, this is gonna be a very easy easy route for us because we're over leveled, and compared to Brock, pretty much anything is gonna seem trivial in comparison. And so instead, I'm going to take this time to talk about my background in Pokemon. If you don't know, I actually grew up on Generation 3, specifically Fire Red, and I guess Leaf Green to some extent, because I technically own both, but mostly Fire Red. So Kanto, Generation 1, is like my home region, and so I'm very comfortable in it. I know it like the back of my hand. I've been through it like 50 gazillion times, just not in Generation 1, you know. So like how old this is kind of throws me for a loop sometimes, and all the weird quirkiness of Gen 1 specifically, but at the end of the day, I'm very comfortable in Kanto. And so this is going to be a very chill time. It also helps that Generation 1 is the simplest generation by far, which makes it extra chill when you're trying to be a completionist, 100% a bunch of stuff. Wrap? Oh no. Don't you do it. You're only doing 2 damage per thing, so this can't go on for that long to kill me. But we're probably going to have to heal after this. Oh. Chubby Chew was angry with that one. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. How could I lose to a kid with a Pikachu? Yeah, so we're gonna heal, and then we'll be back on Route 3. Alright, we're back where we ended. Now, right here, if you're trying to do like a minimum battles type deal, you can actually choose between either the guy right in front of me or the girl up here. If you do fight the girl, however, you have to reload the route by going back to Pure City and then coming back here so that her position resets so that you can get by her without also having to go and battle the other guy. That look you gave me, it's so intriguing. But of course, we're gonna fight both of them, so not like it matters a whole lot. But back to my history of Pokemon. I actually haven't played like a ton of Pokemon outside of Fire Red Leaf Green in the earlier generations. Like I've played through, of course, Generation 1 and 2 on my channel previously, and I'd played it like a handful of times before that. I've also played Hoenn, proper Generation 3, Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald, through like maybe like once or twice, not a whole lot. And let's see what this guy says. Are you a trainer? Let's fight. Boring. Get a day job, dude. You can't just catch bugs all day. A Weedle. Okay. Anyway, and so I hadn't played Generation 4, like I owned Generation 4 games, I owned Diamond and Pearl, and I just never played them. And so I played Generation 4, and I played Platinum specifically for the first time, I don't know, like a few years ago, like 2021 or something like that. It was, you know, obviously way after the games actually had come out. And that was a cool experience. I played through Black when it first launched. Like, I literally binged it when it came out, pretty much. It was like during like a break from school, because I was still in like grade school at the time. And there was like a break. I stayed up all night playing through the entire main game. And then I never picked it up ever again, pretty much. Like, I haven't played Black and White in any serious capacity ever since then. It left a bad taste in my mouth at the time, for some reason. 10-year-old me was like, I don't like this. Even though I binged it, so who knows what I was thinking when I was 10. But, either way, I'm kind of excited to re-experience Gen 5 through these Let's Plays, because it'll be fun to, if I had new Pokemon, I would have won. Yeah, okay. I am over-leveled, so you are kind of just screwed no matter what you do. Hey, you're not wearing shorts! How do you know that? I guess the official trainer art does show us wearing pants, huh? I've never seen it, though. Spearow, that's a little high-level Spearow, actually. It'll just die in one hit, though. I believe in Chubby Chew. Oh, we crit. Well, I guess we'll never know if it would truly one-shot. Lost, lost, lost! The TV show? Is that still relevant? Am I old? I think there is... you know, we fought in 6 trainers already, and this is trainer number 7. You can fight my new Pokemon! And these fights go quick when you're over-leveled. Anyhow, I never played Black 2 or White 2. I think I've played and seen very little of it, actually. Probably stemming from the fact that I didn't particularly care for regular Black and White, because I never bought them, so... And then I almost didn't buy X or Y until one of my friends convinced me to pick up one of them for some reason. It was like maybe a year or two after the games that come out. And one of my friends convinced me to pick one up, and I was like, fine, I guess I'll give it a shot, because I did like Pokemon. I just played like a lot of Fire Red, and that was pretty much it. And so I picked up X, and I think I got to like the 6th gym or so. It was like around there, and I just like stopped playing, and I don't remember why I did. Done like dinner. But I just stopped playing. So don't know what I was thinking back when I was playing that. Eek, did you touch me? Because that was like a decade ago. A long time ago. Last one's the fight with a Jigglypuff. I don't trust it. It's getting Thunder Waved. It may not attack. Yes! It's paying off. Oh, it's really paying off, actually, surprisingly so. Oh my god, we just destroyed the Jigglypuff. I think that Jigglypuff actually has Sing, which can put you to sleep, and it gets really annoying to deal with sleep in Generation 1, because sleep works like it does in every other generation, except you don't get to act the same turn that you wake up. Like, if you wake up on turn 2, your Pokemon goes, it woke up, and then you just lose your turn. And so then they can put you right back to sleep. And so you can get sleep locked, and it's bad. That's it? That's it. I'm not gonna comment on that. Anyway, that is actually all of the trainers on Route 3 here. This guy's over here, but phew, I better take a rest. Roan. That tunnel from Cerulean takes a lot out of you. Oh god, we ran into a Pokemon. It's just a Spearow. We've already seen one of you. Get out of here. I want to read the sign. Route 3, Mount Moonhead. Let's go ahead and check it out. Let's roam up here. There's probably someone else to talk to. A lot of ledges. Very, mountainous. You can tell that I get out a lot. Mount Moon tunnel entrance. Now, if I know anything about hiking, you never want to go into a cave alone. Ouch! I tripped over a rocky Pokemon. Geodude! Oh my god. Okay. Sometimes the random wandering trainers like to match your movements, even though it's not them actually doing that, like, in the code, but it feels like they are, and sometimes it gets really annoying. Hello there, have I got a deal just for you? I'll let you have a swell Magikarp for just 500 Pokédollars. What do you say? A Magikarp, huh? 500 Pokédollars? You have to sell me a little bit better than that, dude. No? I'm doing this as a favor to you. Wow. Okay, fine, I'll take it. Woo, we got a Magikarp. Do I want to give it a nickname? No. It is not going on my team. Let's take a look at it, though, however. And by that, I mean, let's take a look at its Pokedex entry. Because, we didn't catch it. It's actually, like, pretty far down. There it is. Magikarp is certainly one of the Pokemon of all time. It is probably actually one of the most well-known Pokemon that isn't a starter or a legendary, at least in Generation 1. And that is for a few reasons, but before we get into it, surprisingly, this is the first water-type Pokemon we've encountered, unless you're playing Red and Blue, and obviously you have the water starter. But besides that, this is the first water-type Pokemon we've encountered. And I do want to make it clear that you can actually catch this thing in the wild. You don't have to buy it from the shady guy. And if you catch it with like a Pokeball, then you're saving like $300 effectively, right? $200 for a Pokeball versus $500 for the Magikarp itself. It takes a fair bit until we get to the point where you can actually catch it. And so this is the earliest that you can possibly obtain it, but it is not the only way to obtain it. That all said and done, Magikarp is quite unique. It has a slow growth rate. I just want to point that out. It's the first Pokemon we've seen with a slow growth rate. And yeah, its stats are abysmal. I was holding off from saying it, but it needs to be said. It has an attack stat of 10. 10! That's like the lowest stat period that is on almost any Pokemon ever. Like, we've never seen a stat that low before. And 185 is a bottom 5 base stat total in the game. The only things that are lower than it are the Caterpie, Metapod, Weedle, and Kakuna that we've already went over in the first episode. Yeah, this thing is pretty bad. And it gets even worse because the only 2 moves that Magikarp can get in this game are Tackle and Magikarp's signature move, Splash. Magikarp doesn't get Tackle until level 15. Yeah, I'm not kidding, level 15. It does come with Splash, however. If you don't know what Splash is a move that does nothing. Yeah, I'm not kidding. It does literally nothing. You use it and then it goes, nothing happened. That's literally all it does, is nothing. And it has 40 PP. So you can't even like use it and be like, all right, let me struggle, because at least that'll do some damage. No, you're gonna be there for a while. This is a Pokemon that is mandatory to switch train until you get to learn Tackle, and then even then, it's got 10 base attack. How are you gonna use Tackle with 10 base attack and have it actually like do anything worthwhile? It's pretty rough. You're gonna have to switch train it. If you don't know what switch training is, you will go over it later in the video, but point being, Magikarp itself, terrible Pokemon. If this were all it were, it would be like impossible to recommend it. However, Magikarp does evolve at level 20, which is relatively low. It's one of the lower level counts for evolutions in the game. And 2, Gyarados. Gyarados is a beast of a Pokemon. Look at those base stats. 480 base stat total is insane. It's by far the largest we've seen, just like period. We haven't even seen base stat total in the green yet. This is the first one we've seen that's even in the green. And it's pretty, well, it's actually not that high into the green, but in the grand scheme of things, it might as well be, because the only Pokemon with a better base stat total than Gyarados are legendary, mythical, and pseudo-legendary Pokemon. That is it. It is a top 7 base stat total. I think it's tied with one other Pokemon, weirdly enough, but anyway, you're not really going to see anything better in terms of base stat total, raw base stat total, than a Gyarados. 125 base attack is insane. It just like wrecks up shop. 100 special is a boon for it in this particular game because it lets it use its water stab rather effectively. And yeah, Gyarados is a part flying type Pokemon. I don't know why they gave it flying type when Magikarp was pure water, but Gyarados doesn't actually learn any flying type moves, so you can't take advantage of your stab there. It's purely a defensive option, or I guess it's not an option. It acts purely defensively for Gyarados, and you know, it makes you quad weak to electric, so it's not like great, and it gets rid of your resistance to ice, also not great. But I mean, you do get a ground immunity, which is kind of nice, I guess. Anyway, typing aside, It's hard not to recommend Gyarados just because of how amazing its stats are, and its move pool is somewhat wide, and even if you're not going to be able to take advantage of your stabs all that well, it doesn't really matter when you have stats this good. You can use anything and it'll just be the best thing you've ever seen. As such, the recommended moveset is just all-out attack, as you might expect. First up, we have Hydro Pump. Hydro Pump is a base 120 power, 80% accurate water move. It's the highest damaging water move in the game, and that's why we put it on here, because when you have something with this good of a special stat, you just want to have it hit things hard, you know. But that being said, the 80% accuracy and frankly low PB count can be a deterrent, and you can easily just throw Surf on here instead and it will be perfectly fine. Next up we have Hyper Beam. Hyper Beam, I mean, come on. You don't have a Gyarados and not put Hyper Beam on it, especially in Gen 1. Later generations, whatever. Gen 1 though, you have to have Hyper Beam on it. You gotta take advantage of that 125 base attack. And then Blizzbolt is just too good to pass up. I mean, coverage for days. You'll literally be able to hit everything and hit it hard with this moveset. Unfortunately, Gyarados doesn't really get any setup moves that it can benefit from super well. Like, there's no Swords Dance, there's no Agility, there's no Dragon Dance that doesn't exist yet, but there's none of that, so this is pretty much the best you're going to do for a moveset. If you're willing to train a Magikarp up to become a Gyarados, I mean, again, it's hard not to recommend it. It's just so good. However, training it can be a pain, and like I said, if you don't want to buy the one from the shady guy in the Pokemon Center, then you're going to end up having to get one towards like the more mid-game-ish, and then train it from there, and it might come at a higher level, but it's going to be a bit harder to use it as a Magikarp because of the Pokemon that you're fighting being higher leveled. If you are purely switch training, honestly, I might just wait until you can catch it in the wild, save some money, and then when you're switch training, it'll take less time to get to the level where it evolves because you get more experience for the higher level Pokemon, right? The only other thing I want to mention about Gyarados is that Gyarados is the first Pokemon we've seen with a unique typing. If you don't know what a unique typing is, it's basically as it sounds. The Pokemon's typing combination is unique only to that Pokemon within this particular game at the very least. For a Pokemon to have a unique typing, the order does not matter. So in Gyarados' case, water flying, this also means that there is no flying water type. If there were a flying water type, then Gyarados would not have a unique typing, just so we're clear on that. When I say that Gyarados is the first unique typing Pokemon we've seen, I'm not including Nidoqueen and Nidoking, which technically have a unique typing if you consider them to be kind of bunched together as one Pokemon, because Poison Ground is unique to just those two Pokemon. I personally don't think that they have a unique typing, just because I consider them to be two different Pokemon. I mean, they have two different text entries and spots in the Pokedex after all, but it's up for debate. There's definitely reasons why you'd maybe want to lump them together. Besides that, though, Gyarados having a unique typing doesn't really mean a whole lot, other than it's just the only Pokemon in the game with this particular type combination, and maybe that is something that appeals to you. Like, if you want this specific type combination on one Pokemon, this is the only place you're going to get it from. So just something to keep in mind. So that's my 2 cents there. Fantastic Pokemon, literally one of the best in the game. Hard to go wrong. His typing do be a bit weird though, not gonna lie. The fish Pokemon, famous for being very unreliable, it can be found swimming in seas, lakes, rivers, and shallow puddles. Okay, yeah, this is not a good deal for us. The only reason I bought it is because I just wanted to show that you can buy it and get a Magikarp this early. If you do want to use the Magikarp, it's actually not a bad idea to get started right now. and rely heavily on switch training, but it's getting deposited. I don't want them anywhere near me, to be honest. What are you looking at there? Team Rocket attacks Cerulean citizens. Team Rocket is always in the news. Yeah. I have 6 Pokeballs set in my belt. At most, you can carry 6 Pokemon. True story. If you have too many Pokemon, you should store them via PC. Yeah, that's what I did. Plop down in there. I don't think we have a whole lot to heal, but we might as well. We did, of course, have a new route that we just passed over, and we didn't actually catch anything in it. So, guess what we're going to be doing? So, just for reference, I'm going to be walking around the patch of grass right here. You can also walk around the patch of grass over here, actually, if you want to. Next to where the Jigglypuff wielding girl is. I forget if she was a last or if she was I think she was a last, right? What trainer classification she was. It doesn't matter. Anyway, I'll let you know when I find something. Oh my god. You have no idea how long this took. It actually didn't take that long, but it was annoying. I ran into so many more Mankey and they have the exact same encounter rate. Here we have Sandshrew, pure ground type. I mean, if you were passing up on either of the Nidoran lines, this is certainly an option for ground type, because let's be honest, no one's choosing the Nidoran lines for the poison type. The thing about Sandshrew is all of Sandshrew's stats are concentrated in attack and defense, which isn't like inherently bad, but it is something to keep in mind. And of course, Sandshrew itself, you know, nothing impressive in the base stat department as a unevolved Pokemon. And frankly, I have nothing to say about it besides it evolved relatively early at level 22, which is kind of nice, into Sandslash. And besides looking cool, Sandslash is actually a pretty good Pokemon overall. It's in the 400 plus club for base stat total, which is, you know, chef's kiss, really nice. And again, all of its base stats are concentrated mostly into attack and defense, but it also has decent HP and like serviceable speed. It's not really the kind of speed that you want to use for anything in particular, but it's not slow, so that is nice. I mean, yeah, frankly, as a pure ground type, Sandslash is just really solid. It can dish out the damage, it can take hits as long as they're physical and not special. And the only real problem with Sandslash is that its level up moveset is garbage. The only good move that it gets by level up is Slash, as per its name, I guess. And frankly, the upside of Slash is its critical hit rate being increased, and Sandslash's speed isn't really high enough. Sandslash's base speed isn't really high enough for me to want to include Slash in the recommended moveset, so that's why it's not there, though you could definitely slot it in if you didn't want to use TMs, because, yeah, the biggest problem with Sandslash, in my honest opinion, is that Sandslash is a TM goblin. You're going to use lots of TMs to make this thing worthwhile, because it learns no ground type moves by level up. None whatsoever. It doesn't even learn, like, I don't know, they're all the ground type moves are kind of good in this game. But it doesn't learn anything, so you're kind of stuck with normal type moves, and that's it by level up. TMs, if you do use TMs though, that gets us into our recommended moveset. Every ground type you gotta put Earthquake on, as we've gone over. Rock Slide is just coverage for being able to hit flying types as a ground type, which is always nice to have. And Rock Slide's also just like a really solid move in this generation. And then Body Slam, gone over a million times. Just needed something to round out the moveset, and really it's the chance for paralysis that puts it on here. And then Swords Dance. Thankfully, Sandslash gets Swords Dance to help beef up its attack stat even more. Overall, though, solid Pokemon. If you want a ground type and you, for some reason, didn't want either of the Nidoran lines, this is the best early game option you're going to find. And it's one of the only ground types you're going to find throughout the entire game that isn't also part rock type. And rock ground types or ground rock types, they're technically different, but I digress. Yeah, when you have dual rock and ground typing, not good for your Pokemon defensively. It's like basically preferable to have a just regular ground type, pure ground type. So the Sandslash can definitely be your guy in that sense. I have no real complaints other than its level up moveset. So if you can invest the TMs, solid Pokemon to use. The mouse Pokemon. Its body is dry. When it gets cold at night, its hide is said to become coated with a fine dew. Ew. Ugh. I don't like that. We will not be giving a nickname to Sandshrew. And that will be it, actually, for everything that's on Route 3 in Pokemon Yellow. You can actually find a Jigglypuff as well on Route 3 if you're playing either Red or Blue. But we're going to have to wait to encounter Jigglypuff here in Pokemon Yellow, so we'll have to wait for later. But we still have a whole cave to explore, so let's get going after I heal. Into the mouth of the cave. And we are in Mount Moon. Before we get too deep into the trenches, what I'm actually going to do is get all of the encounters that you can get in Mount Moon before anything else. So if you are interested in also getting all of the possible encounters, or maybe even a specific encounter, I recommend highly that you go down to the bottom floor here, which is a basement second floor, if you will. Ignore the guy up there, don't worry about him. Try to stay out of his line of sight as you kind of walk around down here. And if we're lucky, we'll eventually encounter a Pokemon. I'm kind of surprised we haven't already. But, Generation 1, what are you doing? Okay, there we go. First up. So this is where Brock is getting all his Pokemon from. Yeah, we're familiar with Geodude, obviously, from our battle with Brock, and as you might have expected, Geodude is a rock-type Pokemon. However, Geodude is also a part ground-type, and if you recall from when I was talking about Sandshrew, I was saying that most ground types are part rock-type. Geodude is kind of the poster child of that. Unfortunately, rock and ground type together are a really terrible defensive type combination, which is heavily exacerbated by Gen 1 being Gen 1. Every rock ground type in Generation 1 has terrible special, and both rock and ground type are weak to water and grass, so you're taking 4 times damage from water and grass moves, both of which are very common. Water type is bar none the most common type in Pokemon history, and Gen 1 does have quite a lot of grass types, specifically trainers that use grass types. Lasses love their grass types. And so when you pair all of these water and grass moves hitting you for 4 times damage with your low special, it's a recipe for disaster. It's bad enough to the point where if you're training a Geodude, you see a grass or a water type and you just switch out, because you're gonna die. Your speed's too low to be able to outspeed to possibly do anything before they can do anything. And they just click Vine Whip, or they click Bubble or Water Gun or whatever it is, and then you die. It's unfortunate, but that's how it is. And it's a shame because other than, if that problem didn't exist, Geodude would be a rather solid Pokemon. It has incredibly good defense for it being an unevolved Pokemon. and its attack is also relatively high. It's just that all of its other stats really suck. And in a different generation, it wouldn't be as big of an issue. It's always an issue in every generation, but it's exacerbated in Gen 1. Now, I already know some of you are in the comments going, oh, I know that he's going to put this on his team because he doesn't have a recommended moveset for it. And, first of all, I'm not that easy to read. Come on. Would I do that? Yeah, yes, I would. But in this case, you're actually wrong for at least the reason that I don't have a recommended moveset here. Not to say that I am or am not using it on my team, but specifically the reason why I don't have a moveset here is unrelated to that, just entirely. So to get into that reason, let's first take a look at Geodude's evolution at level 25 into Graveler. Graveler is just Geodude, but more sturdy, more bulky, more rock-like. He's got 4 arms though. That's kind of cool, right? So yeah, Graveler isn't like incredibly impressive compared to Geodude, but the bump in base stats is greatly appreciated. 345 is pretty okay. You can totally make it to the end of the game on a base stat of 345, and you won't be completely suffering. It's not going to be easy by any stretch of the imagination, especially with the typing that Graveler is, but you can make it work. And now we have a recommended moveset here. The reason why is you might have noticed that there's a new evolution method. I know it's hard to see. The icon is very badly done. I didn't say I was good at this, but it's supposed to be 2 Game Boys connected with the link cable. The link cable's black, the background is black. It was the whole thing. Ultimately, I'm selfish and I like this icon, so you're gonna have to put up with it. So yeah, Graveler is a trade evolution. Everyone who is anyone knows about trading a Pokemon and how there are certain Pokemon that only evolve by trading. This unfortunately means anyone who doesn't have access to trading, especially in a game as old as Gen 1, which is very understandable, just does not have access to the final evolution for the Geodude line and some other lines. Because of this problem, I wanted to provide a recommended moveset specifically for both Graveler and its evolution separately, in case you are someone who has no access to trading and you are forced to consider only being able to cap out at Graveler. But in case you do have access to trading, I also want to, of course, be able to provide a moveset that is catered to the final evolution from the trade. So the reason I don't have a recommended moveset on Geodude in this case is there are 2 separate movesets going on, and conveying both of those on Geodude would be confusing and just not worth it. So the recommended movesets are localized. Graveler's recommended moveset is actually what it looks like. It's attached to it and it's all nice, and then its evolution's moveset's going to be attached to it, and you just click on which one you want to look at and it will be nice and simple. All that said, let's talk about Graveler's moveset that I've recommended here. I'm someone that loves to put stab moves on every Pokemon that I can within reason, and Graveler is no different. So as a rock type, the best rock type move in the game, bar none, is definitely Rock Slide. It's a base 75 power move that also is 90% accurate. So it's a pretty solid move. Unfortunately, there's nothing better than Rock Slide, but it'll definitely get the job done. And it will definitely help a ground type like Graveler against flying types, having a stab rock type move to just nail them super effectively. So it's kind of like a mixture of stab and coverage. Something else coverage wise that rock type kind of gives Graveler that it otherwise wouldn't have is the ability to hit stab rock on ice, which is almost always attached to water, one of Graveler's nemesis types. So you're not completely without counterplay against a water type as long as it's part ice type. That said, you're still pretty much out of counterplay because your speed's so low, you'll probably get outsped and then get killed. But, you know, on the off chance that you have like more stat experience, speed, or you're higher level to be able to outspeed, then maybe you can rock slide and pull something off. Anyway, it's a rather niche scenario, but it's mainly stab that's on here. And then Earthquake, of course, we've covered that a million times. Body Slam, Paralyze, and also Body Slam's just hard to beat for how much base power it does. The big problem with Graveler's moveset, but also pretty much every Pokemon's moveset, is the only normal type moves that have higher damage than Body Slam pretty much all have not like big drawbacks to them. There are moves like Takedown and Double Edge that do more base power than Body Slam, but they also do recoil to the user, so you're hurting yourself when you use them. And it's like, why wouldn't I just use Body Slam and go for Paralysis? It's a lot more friendly to my Pokemon. And so that basically doesn't leave you with a lot of options. Graveler in particular does get Earthquake by level up, which is really, really nice because it lets you save the Earthquake TM to possibly use on something else. Very valuable in early generation Pokemon games when TMs were limited use. But outside of that, both Rock Slide and Body Slam are going to need to be taught by TM, and Graveler just like doesn't learn anything else that's worthwhile to put on it. There's no setup moves, like there's no Swords Dance or Agility or anything like that. And like you could put a fighting type move on it, like Submission, but that does recoil, and you don't really need the fighting type for anything. It doesn't add much to your coverage. There is Fire Blast, because for some reason Graveler gets Fire Blast. Fire Blast could be useful, but the situation for when it's useful is like extremely niche against like very specific Pokemon that will take more damage from Fire Blast than like Body Slam, or to the point where it makes it more worth it, like it would one-shot or something. Essentially, if I rule all of that out, it leaves us with moves that are more powerful than Body Slam because all of the remaining move options are normal type. And the only one that fits the bill is Explosion. If you don't know what Explosion is a, for lack of a better term, a suicide move. You click it, your Pokemon blows up, and then it faints, but also while it's fainting, it does massive damage to the opponent. Like, I'm talking massive, massive damage. And so it's kind of like the last ditch effort, like my Pokemon's gonna die anyway, I might as well explode, do a lot of damage, and possibly also get a feint at the same time. Explosion itself is a base 170 power. That's 20 more than Hyper Beam. And because Explosion has a somewhat broken mechanic in Generation 1 and 2, it's actually better than that. In these early generations, Explosion halves the defense of the Pokemon it's attacking before it calculates damage. That means, functionally, Explosion is like using a base 340 power move. That is an insane amount of power to be putting into any move whatsoever, especially a normal type move that'll hit pretty much everything neutrally. It's a lot of damage. Not a lot can tank an Explosion, especially from something that has a good attack stat. Graveler itself is one of the few Pokemon that can tank that just because Rock type resists it, and it has a really, really high defense. The reason that I'm hesitant to put moves like Explosion on a recommended moveset is because it feints you, as we covered, and when your Pokemon faints, it doesn't gain experience. So if you're spamming Explosion because it's so powerful on everything, then you're going to be not gaining experience on your Pokemon, which will make it fall behind, and then it gets bad. And so then you're like, well, obviously you just don't use Explosion. But then if you're not using Explosion, why is it on your moveset, right? It's kind of like a catch-22. There is niche use for it, where you can only use it against like boss fights, for lack of a better term. Something like a gym leader, a rival fight, other things similar to that, where it's like an important trainer that you're fighting, and not just like Lass on Route 3 that has an Nidoran, right? That is ultimately why I decided to put it on here anyway, despite not really liking to put Explosion on movesets. If everything I just explained sounds unappetizing to you, you could consider replacing Explosion with Strength, because Strength as an HM move at least has field utility, even if you're going to use Body Slam over it pretty much every time. And so I'm just throwing that out there. All in all, though, if you're stuck with Graveler as your final consideration for the Geodude line, it's a somewhat of a tough recommend. It's not good because of Generation 1. On one hand, Graveler just like is underwhelming. 345 isn't great for a final base stat total on your quote fully evolved Pokemon, at least effectively. And the combination of the rock and ground type is just really unfortunate. And so that alone makes it really hard to recommend. But that all said, rock type is hard to come by, and most rock types in the game are also part ground type. And so if you're wanting to use a rock type, Graveler is basically your best option. The very, very, very limited amount of Pokemon that aren't part ground type, that are also rock type, come very late in the game. I'm talking 7th badge, late game, and they come at a relatively low level for that point in the game, which means you have to do some grinding to catch them up. Or you have to accept that they're going to be eating experience from trainers so that they catch up, that you would otherwise be putting towards your higher level Pokemon, right? It's definitely doable, but the problems don't stop there with these mythical other Pokemon that aren't part ground type. The secondary typings that they do have are very common, being water and flying. And so you're likely to have both of those types on your team or not need them to be on your team. So if you really want to use specifically a rock type, while you could wait for those other Pokemon around the 7th badge, if you want something early game or even something mid game, this is going to be pretty much your strongest option, even as a Graveler. However, if you are looking at Graveler because you're wanting a ground type specifically, you're probably better off with the Sandshrew if you have access to it, or just other pure ground types that do exist a bit further into the game. So overall, good Pokemon for a very niche use case is essentially what I'm trying to say. That makes it hard for me to actually recommend, but again, there's the niche use, so if that fits what you're looking for, then I can, in fact, recommend Graveler. Of course, though, if you have the ability, you should really evolve it via trade into Golem. Golem is just, again, Graveler but more, Geodude but more. It cranks up all of its stats to 11 pretty much. 130 defense is really, really, really good. It's one of the best defense stats in the game. 110 attack is nothing to sneeze at. It's one of the better attack stats in the game. And 80 HP makes it really bulky. This thing, if you're trying to attack it with physical hits, especially things that it resists, it ain't dying. Of course, its special is still really, really weak, especially for a fully evolved Pokemon, and so it's very frail to special attacks, unfortunately, still. But 400 plus club, I said that pretty much every 400 plus club Pokemon was good, and I'm sticking by it. Golem is a good Pokemon. Maybe not suitable for Gen 1, but Golem is a good Pokemon. The big difference between it and Graveler, besides the fact that it just has like 100 extra base stat, is that Golem learns 2 extra moves that Graveler doesn't get access to. Golem gets access to Mega Kick, not very inspiring, but it also gets access to Hyper Beam. Hyper Beam is one of those few moves that I think is actually worth using over Body Slam for niche use cases. Specifically for like, I need something that will end the battle on like the final Pokemon, but Body Slam isn't gonna kill it, right? Part of the reason that Hyper Beam is so good is because it doesn't make you do the recharge turn if you knock out the opposing Pokemon. That still applies here, obviously, but the other part of the formula is that it's good on fast Pokemon that can crit because they're fast, they have high base speed, and crit Hyper Beam is disgusting. But also, if you're outspeeding your opponent you can just spam Hyper Beam, knock everything out as they come out without them being able to touch you, and that's really what makes it so strong. Is being able to crit and being able to knock things out before they can touch you. Golem is not fast enough for either of those things to be true. And that makes Hyper Beam way less valuable, but not a bad option if you need the extra damage for something, which can totally happen. So that's why I put it on here. It also has the benefit of not killing you like Explosion does, and so that's why I prefer it over Explosion. Now that was a really long-winded explanation. We haven't had a long-winded talk like this in a while, but everything I said about Graveler still applies to Golem. It's basically only really good if you want to use it as rock type. Using it as a ground type, you're still better off going for a pure ground type. But if you're considering Golem, that means you have access to trading. And using trade evolutions is pretty novel, so that alone might be a good enough reason to consider using it. So if you do end up using it, great Pokemon. You're going to have a lot of fun being able to throw your weight around with such a bulky Pokemon. Now let's get back to catching more stuff. The rock Pokemon, commonly found near mountain trails, etc. If you step on one by accident, it gets angry. Me too. No nicknames for Geodude. Stacking up. Enemy Zubat used Supersonic. Chubbichoo became confused. Yeah, Zubat is infamous for exactly those couple of text boxes. It's a really old joke at this point, but essentially Zubat is found in caves, and whenever you go through a cave, especially Mount Moon, you don't have repels in Generation 1, and you run into Zubat most of the time because it has the highest encounter rate, and then it just uses Supersonic because it has like nothing else to use pretty much at this low level, and then your Pokemon becomes confused and it's really annoying. And plus Zubat's cry is kind of memorable, to say the least. So besides all of that, Zubat as a Pokemon is like okay. Its stats are relatively low actually, that's on the lower end of things, but it does have a very balanced stat spread, which is you know, it's not the worst. There's definitely a bias towards attack and speed, which is always nice to see for a poison flying type Pokemon in Generation 1. And speaking of that typing, the Zubat line has a unique typing with poison flying, because there is no poison flying or flying poison Pokemon. And in fact, it is the only line of Pokemon, evolutionary line, that has a unique typing throughout every generation, at least as of when this is being recorded, which is up through Gen 9. There is literally no other poison flying or flying poison Pokemon ever in 1,000+ Pokemon. It's the only Pokemon that can say that for every single generation of Pokemon. Every other Gen 1 Pokemon, which is the only other Pokemon that are eligible, even if they did have a unique typing, they've lost that unique typing status at some point to a different Pokemon. The closest that can rival the Zubat line for this claim is the Ghastly line, but Petrarunt ended Ghastly's whole career there, so we're left with Zubat. And that does make it a pretty cool Pokemon, all things considered, and over the years it does get better, but in Generation 1, there's not a whole lot to like about Zubat, unfortunately. Let's just go straight into talking about Golbat, which Zubat evolves into at level 22. Golbat is, I want to like it so badly, because its stats are actually like pretty solid. Everything's like hovering around a very slightly above average mark, which is pretty good. Golbat in this generation does have actually really solid special for some reason, and the attack and the speed stat are definitely its best features, even if they're not like anything to write home about. But having a base stat total of 390 is pretty good. It's definitely up there for a Pokemon, and if only Golbat had a better move pool, because the move pool is what really holds Golbat back from being an absolute fine Pokemon to use. If you ever take a look at Gen 1 Golbat's move pool, it is abysmal. it learns basically nothing except for normal type moves. The only flying type move it learns at all is Wing Attack at level 32. I'm not kidding, level 32. The only poison type move it learns is Toxic by TM. It doesn't learn anything that attacks with poison type, so you can't even use it, it's just purely defensive. And for some ungodly reason, it starts with Leech Life. And Leech Life in this particular generation is really garbage at base 20 power. And because it's bug, you don't even get stabbed with it. And like, yeah, I get it. Vampire Bat, it leeches your life. It's not good for the Pokemon though, even if it does make some sort of sense. That makes making a moveset for it actually really challenging. But I'm kind of proud of what I crafted up here. I think it'll work. So from top to bottom, left to right, we got Wing Attack. It's one of those situations again where it's like I have nothing better to put on it. I would love to put anything besides Wing Attack on this Pokemon, but there just isn't anything that I wanted to put on it more. And so I was like, I might as well give it a stab move. And that's why Wing Attack is on here. Again, the only flying type move it actually learns, so we're stuck with it, unfortunately. And then we have Mega Drain. Mega Drain is the only other attacking type move it learns that's not normal or flying type, or bug type, I suppose. And it's the only way to leverage Golbat's special in an attacking manner. And as a user of Mega Drain, Golbat isn't like completely terrible. 75 special is definitely can put in some work, and it's, I guess, an upgrade over Leech Life, just because Golbat's attack and special are close enough to where it makes more sense to use the higher base power move. It also helps Golbat get some coverage, which it kind of sort of desperately needs against rock types specifically, and even ground types. So if Golbat did not get access to Mega Drain, I think he would actually be like a really shit Pokemon overall. But Mega Drain might just save it for me. And then Hyper Beam is just the best attacking move that you can put on it, pretty much as an extra attack. Again, no setup moves really, except for Confuse Ray. The Zubat line is one of very, very few Pokemon in the game that learn Confuse Ray, which is 100% accurate move that causes confusion. A very, very strong upgrade, almost 2x upgrade in terms of accuracy over Supersonic. And Confusion is not something you can rely on necessarily, but it does certainly help. Especially when you couple it with Golbat's relatively high speed, and it'll just be like, you send it out, it confuses something, that Pokemon hits itself a few times. You whittle it down with your weak wing attack, and then it dies, right? Unfortunately, even though Golbat is a flying type, it doesn't learn the move Fly. And so, if you're gonna pick up any flying type, it probably shouldn't be a Golbat. But if you don't care about Fly, because you're using like some other Pokemon that can learn Fly, and the unique typing combination of Poison and Flying is appealing to you, I guess I can recommend Golbat. It's like, it's not half bad, it'll put in some work. It's just, man, if only it got better moves. Especially because Poison in this particular generation is actually kind of dope, because it can hit Bug type super effectively, and like, oh, it'd be so nice to have a good, strong Poison type move to use on it. Like, even like just putting Sludge on it for no reason at all. Oh, that would have been so nice, but we don't live in that world. And that means Golbat, for me, is a no-go, just in general. There's basically no reason to use it besides the typing combination itself, which is not strong enough for me, so let's just move on. The Bat Pokemon emits ultrasonic cries while it flies. They act as a sonar used to check for objects in its way. Very bat-like indeed. No nickname for Zubat. Third up. Eris is the first grass type we've run into here in Pokemon Yellow, though this grass type happens to also be a bug type. And I'll get out of the way real quick that the Paris Line's typing of bug grass is unique to the Paris Line. Uniqueness aside though, bug and grass is actually eerily similar to the rock ground typing. This is because both of those typings have two quad weaknesses that are rather unfortunate. For rock ground, it was obviously grass and water. And for bug and grass, it's fire and flying. Flying is a very, very, very common type to run into on enemy trainers, though good flying moves, not so much. But even a wing attack will pretty much decimate a Paris, so regardless, having 2 quad weaknesses is always bad, and it's no different with this particular type combination. However, rock ground is missing something that bug grass does actually have, which is it offsets its 2 quad weaknesses by having 2 quad resistances. Rock ground does have a quad resistance to poison, not very useful at all, one of like the worst attacking types in the game. Bug and grass, however, actually have quad resistances to both grass and ground. Grass and ground are some of the most prominent attacking types in the game. Big game changer. Just from that alone, it makes this type combination more valuable. And I know that I've been ragging on bug types thus far into the LP because bug types are terrible offensively, and it's no different with Paris here. The only bug type move that learns to attack with, and at all, is Leech Life. Enough said. But bug type actually does have a redeeming quality, and that's when you use it defensively. The reason that bug type is good defensively is because it has resistances to grass, fighting, and ground, some of the most prominent attacking types in the game, as we sort of just discussed. Fighting and ground in particular are very, 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 very prominent attacking types because each of those are the only ones that have 5 times super effective matchups in Gen 2 onward. In Generation 1, fighting in particular is way less overwhelming, but ground is still really good. And just overall, the fact that fighting in the future becomes a really prominent attacking type, and ground's pretty much always been a good attacking type, make having a quad resistance to ground and even just a regular resistance to fighting really nice to have, actually. Somewhat to go along with this, Paris does have some pretty decent stats to be sort of tanky. It has equal defense and special, and Paris's HP is nothing crazy, but it's not completely terrible either. We can get a better look though if we look at what Paris evolves into at level 24, Parasect. Here, Parasect's base HP looks quite a bit better in comparison to just Paris's. Parasect's only truly garbage stat is its speed, which is quite unfortunate, but because it is set up sort of to be more of a tanky Pokemon, having low speed isn't the end of the world. You can definitely work with it. And because of this sort of natural inclination of how the Pokemon is designed, I'm deviating from my usual offense with my moveset and leaning into a more defensive moveset. First off is Mega Drain. We already covered that Parasect doesn't get any bug-type moves besides Leech Life. Frankly, I haven't done the damage calcs, so I don't know if Parasect's difference between special and its attack stat are enough to make Leech Life actually do more than Mega Drain would. But my inclination was that Mega Drain would be more effective, and so that's ultimately why I put it on here. I suppose let me know in the comments if Leech Life has a realistic shot to replace Mega Drain here. They both do the same thing in that they drain opponent's health and restore half of the damage dealt. So like all it is the base power difference, Leech Life being 20 and Mega Drain being 40. I do also think that Bug and Grass are about equally as useful in this particular game in terms of type matchups. Though I will say Grass being super effective on water is kind of huge because there's a lot of water types in this game. Though there is something to be said about the fact that you could have a bug type move to hit psychic types with on a Pokemon that isn't weak to psychic. So I'm kind of on the fence about it, but I also want to point out that Parasect does also learn Solar Beam as its only other offensive grass type move. Solar Beam is a 2-turn move, takes the first turn to charge, and then the second turn it attacks with base 120 power, and it's 100% accurate. I almost had Solar Beam on here, because my line of reasoning was that Parasect being bulky could be able to take a hit on that first turn, and then fire off the Solar Beam the next turn and do more damage at 60 damage per turn versus the 40 that you're getting with Mega Drain. But I ultimately decided that the ability to heal through Mega Drain would be more valuable than being able to do more damage. So that's what lost me it there, but it is certainly an option if putting Solar Beam on a Parasect is appealing to you. And then I put Dig on here. Dig is the only really other form of coverage that you're going to be able to give to a Parasect, and it, in my opinion, does a pretty good job. You can hit fire types, one of your nemesis type matchups. If you opt to do Leech Life instead, then you can hit rock types with it super effectively, which would be really nice. And having a Pokemon that is resistant to electric that can also then attack the electric type super effectively through Dig is also pretty nice. I could see an argument for a world where you want to put a normal type move on it, possibly in place of Dig or possibly in place of Reflect. And Parasect does actually learn all of the strong normal type moves like Body Slam, Hyper Beam, Slash. So there's a lot of options in that sort of sense, and I think that all of them could have merit, which is pretty cool. I ultimately ended up putting Reflect on here in combination with Mega Drain and Dig, just as a way to double your defense. In this particular generation, Reflect isn't team-wide, it's only your Pokemon that you have out right now, so don't get too excited about seeing the move Reflect, but being able to double your defense is still really nice when you're trying to do tanky stuff. And it kind of leads into a point that I'm going to make with the next move, Spore. Spore is a unique move to the Paras line. They learn it by level up, and no other Pokemon can learn it. Spore is the only status move in the game that is as valuable as this move is. It puts opponents to sleep at 100% accuracy. Sleep Powder, 75% accurate. There is no dedicated move to be able to freeze something. It's all just secondary effects from ice type moves. And all the other sleeping moves, putting things to sleep moves, are terrible. Spore is the only one that's 100% accurate. And that makes it uniquely valuable because sleep and freeze are the only two status conditions that are very, very good at catching things. And this being the only 100% accurate dedicated move to be able to inflict one of those statuses makes it uniquely valuable for catching Pokemon. So you can actually catch a Paras not with the intention to put it on your team for battling, but instead to pull it out and then use it to catch Pokemon. I personally will not be doing that, just as a fair warning, but it is certainly a valid option and probably a pretty good one. Some of the Pokemon in this game can be somewhat annoying to catch, although it's not too bad in this particular game. So having a dedicated Pokemon that can use Spore is definitely useful though for that particular mission. And that again leads into why I chose Reflect, because I was like, if you're trying to like catch something, you're going to want stall, and being able to raise your defense will help with stalling. And so it kind of works both ways, where I'm like, you're being more tanky in battle, plus you're able to stall if you want to catch something. I was kind of double dipping when I made this moveset. So overall, Paras is a pretty neat Pokemon. I can recommend it if you are looking for something that can be a dedicated Pokemon to catch things, or you want a somewhat uniquely defensive option in Generation 1. There isn't a whole lot of them that are decent like Parasect is. Being able to basically hard counter ground types and grass types is really good. One last note that I do want to make though about Parasect in this particular generation is that Bug Grass is also quad weak to Poison, just in Gen 1, because Poison is super effective on Bug, only in Gen 1. And while there's basically no good Poison type moves, there are quite a lot of Poison type Pokemon that you end up fighting. So that is a somewhat disappointing blemish on an otherwise like pretty neat Pokemon. So I'm pretty neutral on this one overall. I can see the use case for it, and if that use case works for you, then go for it. But you're certainly not missing anything if you decide to pass up on it as well. The mushroom Pokemon burrows under the ground to gnaw on tree roots. The mushrooms on its back absorb most of the nutrition. Fourth up. Ah yes, we finally have another fair normal type. For all the pure normal types in the game, Clefairy isn't half bad of one of those. In comparison to the only other pure normal type we've seen so far, which is the Rattata line, the Clefairy line is very different. The stat spread is completely just like not at all the same. The Rattata line is relatively fast and has a relatively high attack. The Clefairy line is slow and is actually kind of like a bulky mixed attacker. And unlike the Rattata line, Clefairy doesn't really get any of the like super crazy powerful early stab moves that make the Rattata line actually a really good early game pick. Clefairy's is more of a like just jack of all trades. You can pretty much have it do whatever you want and it'll probably do it pretty well. So Clefairy is a stone evolution using the Moonstone. You can evolve Clefairy into Clefable. And being a stone evolution, Clefable doesn't get any level up moves. So make sure that you have all you want from Clefairy itself before you evolve it. Although, if I'm being really honest, Clefairy itself doesn't really have anything worthwhile to want to wait to learn. But fair warning either way. So all in all, Clefable's base stats are like not half bad. Their 383 base stat total is like very serviceable. And you might notice that Clefable has a specialization, a preference towards HP and special as the two highest stats that Clefable has. And it's actually pretty supporting for how Clefable is built overall because Clefable has a really wide move pool of special attacking moves, whereas the only physical attacking moves that Clefable gets are just normal and fighting. Nothing too crazy there. But having stab normal for body slam is like a really good. Can't go wrong with that. I wouldn't really use Clefable as a Hyper Beam user, even though you can technically do that. It's not the most optimal Pokemon to put it on. With Clefairy's low speed and relatively low attack, you're better off putting it on something else and taking more advantage of Clefable's bulk using paralysis from Body Slam. But let me give an overview of all these different special moves that you can teach to a Clefable. You can teach most of the good water type moves, all of the good ice type moves, Solar Beam, all of the good electric type moves, Psychic, and Fire Blast. Yeah, that's a lot of different special attacking types, and there's a wide range of them too, so you can kind of spec a Clefable to be what you need it to be, as long as it's primarily going to be a special attacker. Its physical attack, while you can use it, because it's not half bad, is not going to be the primary draw of using a Clefable. Moonstone evolutions are really early in the game, so you can have Clefable really soon actually, and that makes it actually a pretty good early game choice that can last into the late game pretty well. It's kind of similar to the other Moonstone evolution in that sense, because both Nidoking and Nidoqueen can also last into the late game pretty well, perhaps even more so than Clefable. Clefable also gets a lot of supporting moves like Thunder Wave, for instance, or Substitute, Rest. And if you decide to level up your Clefairy enough, you can also have Sing on your Clefable if you wanted to. So again, when I say that Clefable is basically just a jack of all trades Pokemon, I really mean it. It can basically do anything you want it to within its move pool. And it won't do it like super well, but it will do it good enough to get you through the game. So that's really where Clefable shines. Something else that's really nice about bulky normal types specifically is that the normal typing itself is only weak to fighting, and everything else is going to be hitting you neutrally. So even though you have no resistances, you also don't have any weaknesses. And fighting as a weakness in Generation 1, not that big of a deal because the fighting type is not super prevalent. You'll have some challenges at some points in the game, but there's not a whole lot of fighting type moves, and a lot of the good fighting type moves are locked to exactly one Pokemon. So I would say consider picking one up maybe and adding it to your team. And even if you don't have a team planned out, you can mold the Clefairy into what you want it to be, as I keep mentioning. Or, of course, you could just get rid of it entirely and replace it with something else later on down the line. But I would never say it's a bad idea to pick up Clefairy. Something else that I want to point out, even if you don't really care about using a Clefairy in particular, is Clefairy is one of the very, very, very few Pokemon this early in the game that can learn either a water or a grass type move early enough to be useful right now, because you get a water TM very, very soon that you can then put onto Clefairy, and it will help you a lot in caves like this that have a lot of rock and ground type Pokemon. So if you're playing Pokemon Yellow specifically, and you only have a Pikachu, it might be worth picking up a Clefairy just to use the water TM on it and to help you get through this early game cave. Something I just wanted to throw out there. And unfortunately, it does kind of reveal a glaring issue with Clefable, is because it's a stone evolution, and because its unevolved form has basically no good level up moves, this is a TM Goblin. And unfortunately, if you want to be doing anything particularly good offensively, you are going to have to invest some of the best TMs in the game into this Pokemon specifically. You can not do that and have it play more of a defensive supporting role with non-attacking TMs, but it's just something to keep in mind. All in all though, great fair normal type Pokemon. The fairy Pokemon. Adored for their cute looks and playfulness, they are thought to be rare as they do not appear often. We are going to be giving a nickname to Clefairy. After much deliberation, I've come up with Lumen. Up fifth. What? Yeah, we're catching another one. Why wouldn't we? No, I'll explain. So, first of all, we haven't been able to talk over a wild Pokemon battle like this in a while. It's kind of nice, huh? Anyway, we need another Clefairy actually, because there is a specific thing that involves a Clefairy later on, and you should totally pick one up even if you don't want a Clefairy itself, because of the other thing that you get access to through the Clefairy here. I don't want to spoil it, okay? Cut me some slack, alright? That all said, I also want to mention that pretty much everyone knows that putting a status on a Pokemon makes it easier to catch. In Generation 1, not all statuses are created equally. Sleep and freeze, freezing a Pokemon, having a Pokemon be frozen, both of those statuses are much superior to the other statuses. Anything that is not sleep or freeze is just inferior, and unless you have nothing better, you really shouldn't bother with it. I think I'm gonna actually throw a ball here. I was like, I don't really trust, okay, good. Clefairy's catch rate not that high, obviously, and I was kind of worried because we don't have that many balls left, but it worked out just fine. Alright, so I'm actually going to nickname this one the same thing, and I'm going to compare contrast which Clefairy is better, and whichever one's worse is getting the axe. That's just how it be sometimes. Alright, I'm back in the Pokemon Center outside of Mount Moon. Let's go ahead and take a look at these two Clefairies that I've caught here. The first one we caught was level 9, which is not ideal, but if it's theoretically better than this one, it might be worth hanging on to. It's just going to be hard to compare them because they're different levels. And so, not entirely sure how I want to go about this. We unfortunately didn't get a good roll of a level 13 Clefairy, which would have been really nice, but regardless, we got 13, 13, 12, 18. Interesting. And then we can't like scroll up and down, unfortunately. 16, 17, 15, 18. I'm thinking the HP DV is probably worse on this one. I would think that you would get more than 4 HP in 2 levels. But maybe I'm wrong. 16, 17, 15, 18. It's interesting that they're not even. Whereas, this one had even attack and defense. I'm gonna have to do some, wait, hold on. 18 special? How much was the other one? Oh, this one also has 18 special? Get out of here, dude. This one's, like, way worse, I think. I'm pretty sure this one's way worse. There's no way it's still at 18 special. I don't even have to think about it. Alright, this one, this level 11 one's getting thrown in the box. It's just how it goes, unfortunately for it. As with all the rest of our great haul, actually, from Mount Moon, that is all of the Pokemon that we can get in Mount Moon, in Pokemon Yellow, and Red and Blue, I think? Yeah, also in Red and Blue. The reason I had you guys go onto the most bottom floor, in case it wasn't obvious, is because the encounter rates for Pokemon are better, just the lower that you get in the cave. So the higher you are in the cave, you're pretty much just going to get Zubats and maybe the occasional Geodude. It's a whopping 1% chance to find a Clefairy at all. But the deepest floor gets you a respectable 10% chance to get a Clefairy, and a 15% chance to get Paris. So it's just your most even odds to get any Pokemon in general, if you will. And you can still find all the Pokemon on offer in Mount Moon down there. So that is the deal with that. We now welcome our new team member, Lumen. Oh, look at it. Look at them. I don't know what pronoun I want to use with Pokemon sometimes. Because Gen 1 Pokemon don't have genders, so it's like, them, it, they, Z? I don't know, but I'm pretty excited. We did use a Clefable last LP, and like I said, my team isn't changing for this LP, but I did use a different name just to spice things up a little bit, catch some people off guard. If you have any idea why I named it Lumen, I would love to know, because I doubt anyone will be able to figure out why. It was a pretty long-winded tunnel of connections that I made, so without further ado, let's head into Mount Moon.